Yo, parish orphans and retrogrades. On today's episode of Rules for Retrogrades, I'm going to be discussing something that I haven't seen a lot in Catholic media, and I think we need to be seeing it a lot. The USCCB is apparently in the process of approving what's called a gay-washed Bible. This came out in late September, the last day of September, in fact. And I just haven't seen it that many places. So I'm going to be reading from a Catholic Culture article by Peter Wolfgang. It's a gay-washed Bible. It's been one of the liberal Protestant translations of the Bible that essentially, effectually erases the sui generis nature of the grossness of sod over against other forms of unnatural, illicit heterosex. So, I mean, it's not going to be graphic or anything, but if there are little kids listening, probably don't let them listen to a gay-washed Bible episode. Mainly, we're going to be talking about how they went about doing this. This article was published again on September the 30th on St. Jerome's Day. And the article begins, Happy St. Jerome's Day, or maybe not so happy. News broke yesterday on the Catholic Bible Talk blog that a Catholic edition of the new revised standard version updated edition called the NRSVUE has been approved by the USCCB. According to the Friendship Press YouTube channel from which Catholic Bible Talk got the news. So we're going to be discussing that today, and I said discussing, not disgusting, which is a key distinction that you could easily miss because this is so disgusting. It's not shocking. This is what we're used to from the USCCB. So we're going to get into it. First off, I just want to remind you that this is a great time, even a little inconvenient, to get out of your blue state and get to a red state. Why? Because the interest rates are now favoring buyers. Prices are now favoring buyers. Get out of your blue state, get to a red state today. Go to www.realestateforlife.org. I got out of the bluest of the blue, California, got to the reddest of the red, Mississippi, and it made a huge difference, huge impact on my life and my family's life. You can do the same, and I strongly urge you to vote with your feet, get to a part of the country where there are Christians all around and conservatives all around. realestateforlife.org is how I recommend doing it. If you want to support this channel, this unique, special, sui generis, far-right conservative Catholic channel, then the best way to do it is on Locals. We're so far to the right, I've been severed from jobs as a theology department chair. I've had my crowdsourced funding removed on the usual means, Patreon, so I do so on Locals. And if you go to rulesforretrogrades.locals, you can support the channel. We need monthly help. You get stuff for the help. If you want to donate, that's different. Go to timothyjgordon.com and donate. There's lots of good reasons to donate. But Locals is where you support it. It's a boutique audience. Retrogrades out there, the parish orphans. You know one when you see one. We're a special class within a class, and it's a mid-sized audience. We love you guys. We appreciate you, and all of us retrogrades understand one another. This show is one of a kind. If you want to see it continue, please consider giving $10 a month on locals.com. Also, at the very least, we're trying to get to 100,000 subscribers. So click the subscribe button and the like button, all of that jazz. Now, there's this dilemma that a Catholic like me has when it comes to having a more or less unfaithful set of bishops, even up to and including the Bishop of Rome. What do you do? Do you cover it up? That's never the solution from my perspective. I never think that that's the way to roll. And you know that from how I reported on the latter half of the Francis pontificate. But when you so I guess you just report what they're doing, and when what they're doing is so bad, so out of proportion with what a Christian bishop should be doing. So in proportion with what a stumbling block does, how they comport themselves and behave. Stumbling block, the worst thing you can be, according to Jesus in the Bible. Then you have to basically to read the news is to give commentary. I mean, like, you can't say the USCCB is in the process of approving a sod-washed Bible. I'll explain more detail as I go through the article, and not be essentially criticizing it, unless you're just a loon. And if you're a total loon, you could say something like, hey, the bishops are approving a gay-washed Bible. Right on. But you have to be nuts. You have to be one of these circular square, confused people called left Caths. I always say this about feminist Catholics. It's a contradiction in terms. They're just a circular square. You can't be a feminist and a Christian, let alone a Catholic. But there are these people out there, okay? There are these weirdos out there. Like, if you're going to be a leftist, just be a leftist. You know? Hit up the gay pride parades, have the feathers on. No holds barred, literally and figuratively. But I mean, if you're going to be a Catholic, there are all kinds of rules. So you just can't be a lefty. So when I say, okay, here's today's show, the bishops approve this lying kind of translation of the Bible called the NRSVUE, the New Revised Standard Version Updated Edition, it's automatically, a criticism is forthcoming. Let me read from this Catholic Culture September 30th article to introduce it. The USCCB has granted an imprimatur for the New Revised Standard Version Updated Edition, Catholic Edition. This means that the NRSVU is what I'll call it, Catholic Edition is approved for publication and permitted for private use and study by the Catholic faithful. So you can study this. You can study this Bible. If you're like, I want to go through a version of the Bible that deletes any explicit mention of Homo sapienism. And this might sound like kind of something that sensible people actually want. Can we delete like Homo sapienism from the world? That would be based. That's not what I mean. I mean, they delete any mention of it as a sin. Oh, okay, that's different. That's the opposite. So a study Bible basically is relativizing, normalizing. This is just a kind of a lesser sexual sin. And that's the point. The NRSVU Catholic Edition is available for publishing partners to license and publish in print and digital formats. Those interested in securing a license for the NRSVU should contact Riggins Rights Management at this email address. Please join us in celebrating this milestone. This is how they announced it. I'm not saying you should celebrate it. I'm skipping around a little bit. It's a milestone. The publication of the NRSVU Catholic Edition in the near future. The National Council of the Churches of Christ in the USA, I think that's Protestants, owns the right to the NRSVU Bible translation as well as the Revised Standard Edition, that's the RSV, and their derivatives, including the Catholic editions. So there are Catholic editions of these Protestant Bibles. Friendship Press, the publishing arm of the NCC, manages the NCC's scripture translations along with the Bible Translation and Utilization Committee. So Friendship Press sounds kind of gay, as you know. Friendship. And so they're the ones that are kind of behind this thing. No pun intended. I hate to mention behind when I'm on this topic. Calm down, people. I wrote an article for Catholic Answers. This is not me talking. I'm reading the article. 3 years ago, trying to stop or slow down an imprimatur for the NRSVU. In my article, I quote Robert A.J. Gagnon, a Protestant scripture scholar whose work is respected across denominational lines, particularly on the Bible and Homo sapienism. It was Gagnon who first warned that the NRSVU gay washes the Bible, writing it in a January 5th, 2022 Facebook post. How do you find an old Facebook post? Might
I
as
didn't even
well.
know people still used Facebook.
Yeah, just send me a message on your dinosaur. You know what I mean? You might as well be faxing me something, which is actually older than sending something by pterodactyl. Here's the direct quote. They have now changed sodomites to the nebulous expression men who engage in illicit sex in 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 9, which does not indicate to English readers the connection to Homo sapien practice provided by the Greek word, contrary to both morphology and context. So morphology means sort of etymologically following the phonemes, inaccurate. Context, completely inaccurate and misleading, which is why they transliterated it this way. A textual note added by the NRSView committee claims that the term is unclear. It isn't. Thank you, Protestant guy who first criticized this in 2022, but you did so on Facebook. The footnote was later changed from meaning of GK uncertain to meaning of GK uncertain, possibly men who have it with men. Nevertheless, possibly, maybe that's what Homo sapien means. Obviously not really Homo sapien. Maybe it has something to do with men who do that thing with men. I don't know. I'm guessing. It's a 50-50 ball. Nevertheless, as to the main text, as Gagnon wrote in 2022, the NRSView now becomes the first major modern English committee translation of the Bible to eliminate any reference to Homo sapien practice. Here's the thing. This isn't just all for dinosaurs on Facebook. The Washington Times picked up the story a day after Gagnon's 2022 post in an article titled "Updated Bible's Interpretation of Sodomy Stirs Debate. Scholars dispute claim ancient Greek term means only illicit sex." Well, it means something very specific, a very specific kind of illicit sex, the most illicit kind. Here's what the Times wrote. At issue does arsenokoitai, a Greek word used only twice in the New Testament. Does it mean all same-sex relations or only illicit ones? This would be heterosexual fornication. Is heterosexual fornication captured by arsenokoitai? You can see the problem in how the Times and the NRSView's translators framed the issue. This article on Catholic culture intones, it is an ideological novelty to say that the Bible makes moral distinctions between different types of Homo sapien relationships. Even the NRSView's translators, at least in that 2022 Washington Times article, did not defend their actions because they can't. It's just a lie. It's a transliteratory lie. Each of them claimed not to know which of them changed the verses. As I joked in my Catholic Answers article, the responses are like Aaron's in the golden calf story. I put this gold in there and the calf just kind of popped out. So when I say this is one of these writers that likes to speak from the first person. I'm not saying I, Timothy Gordon. The NRSView Translation Committee changed its tune in this fascinating interview 2 months ago. And this is 2 actual months ago. I was unaware until I watched it that the director of the NRSView committee is Catholic. The translator addressed the gay washing controversy at about the 40-minute mark. They take sharp exception to any suggestion that their vague translation of arsenokoitai was ideologically motivated. Several times they reference how they were being called before a body to defend some of their choices. That body, our Catholic author here on Catholic culture surmises, may have been the USCCB. You know what? Let's just for the sake of fun, because we're dealing with a bunch of fun boys. Let's listen to about the moment 40 in this article. I'll just play it for you the old-fashioned way here because I got 672 views and it's from about 10 months ago. But listen to what they say here at minute 40.
An anachronism and totally misleading in all the ways. You know, a sodomite is a resident of Sodom. It is, this word that has no meaning in this context. But I have received personally emails from people frustrated with that decision, who have assumed, I don't know why, I'm the woman, I don't know, but that I was somehow responsible for that personally. And I was like, no,
personally?
I was not. And I referred them to, this was a decision of a large group of scholars and pastors and professionals, and this is an appropriate translation, and here's why. And I wrote a piece for Bible Odyssey that tried to explain it a little bit more in case people had questions. But
it's not ideologically motivated.
That's the pushback I've received. I don't know about others, but I've definitely gotten some emails about that.
Giggle.
Yeah, for sure. That has been the focus. I've taken that kind of personally.
Butthurt.
And I try not to do that, but I did feel that my primary job was to maintain the integrity and trust, and not to allow a chink in the armor for anyone to accuse us of having an agenda. And we didn't. We were trying to be honest with that text. And in fact, it's one of the things that we're going to answer to this board. But in fact, if you look at the iterations, we were actually reverting back to the RSV in this case, where the NRSV added sodomy, and we were reverting back to because it was clear that there was a cultural context of the NRSV, and it carries a modern meaning that the text doesn't intend to carry.
So do you hear what they're saying here? What they're claiming is that the term sodomite did not historically refer to Homo sapien individuals. That historically sodomite only meant men who are from Sodom. That's their defense. That's their weak-kneed, hackneyed defense. Yay. And it is simply not sustainable. So the term sodomite, if you want to run an etymology on it, let's do so, because I am a word nerd and I love etymologies. Let's go to etymology.com, shall we? Sodomite is an old term, and yes, while it designates men from Sodom, what it usually indicates is that men from Sodom had their city cursed because of their sodomy. So to deny that sodomite is etymologically related to sodomy is as absurd as denying that sodomy is related to Sodom. It comes from the Latin peccatum, sin, sodomiticum, meaning a sin of Sodom, which is derived from the ancient Greek name for the biblical city Sodoma. This term relates to the story in the book of Genesis where the men of Sodom sought to sexually assault visitors, male visitors, an act interpreted by many as a sin, thus leading to the city's destruction. Now, other attacks that the Lav Mafia has taken in the past, do you remember what it was in the past to this story from Genesis? Do you remember, Steph?
Is this a citizen?
No, it was that it's sinful because it's non-consensual.
Oh, and
the sins of the men of Sodom were.
Somebody in chat was saying that the sins were inhospitality.
Yeah,
and so gay.
It's
right,
so.
Yeah.
If you rape a dude in the butt, chat,
so gay.
Chat, man. Maybe they were having a laugh at it too. But if you're saying this seriously, yes, raping. So there's an old movie called Dirty Work, where I'm not going to say what it is, but they go to prison and he's like, they're treated inhospitably. Norm Macdonald. R.I.P. Norm. Well, I love Norm. Norm in Dirty Work. That's my favorite movie he was ever in. And he goes, they were treated inhospitably the way it happens in prison. And he's like, the worst thing? When they treated me here in prison inhospitably in this particular way, the custom of Sodom, was the disrespect. He goes, no, that was the second worst thing. That was the second worst part about it. Because the first worst part is that there's something even worse than disrespect or inhospitality about sodomy. It's the act itself. So the lab mafia has taken this semi-recent, 1990s, early 2000s approach to trying to make sodomy okay by saying, well, the men of Sodom committed a sin. This is a peccatum, sodomiticum, a peccatum from Sodom, sodomiticum, because they were inhospitable, because they sexually assaulted visitors. Now, the visitors were male. Yeah, that's wrong. But what's really wrong about it, as Leviticus makes clear, is the Homo sapien component. So,
we have a challenge in chat.
What's up? Yeah, dirty work. Dirty work is an old favorite, and it's me and my brothers' favorite Norm Macdonald ever. He wasn't in enough movies. R.I.P. Norm.
But very gay challenge in chat if you're interested in handling it. Avron Productions says, gay is not sexual. Gay is what Jonathan, the man closest to David, was. He loved David more than his own life. And also,
you sound like you might be close to David in real life or whatever.
And also,
you sound like you might be gay.
There's a lot. Love covers a multitude of sins was another one of them. And also this one, you scoffers are going to hell. So
did we tap into the Lavender Mafia today? Normally people that listen are well-wishers.
What color their picture is?
What is it? Rainbow?
Lavender.
It's lavender.
It literally is lavender.
Got some homos in the chat today. It's just you're Sisyphus. You're working up a hill that's guaranteed to defeat you day by day. If you are trying to say the way that the fun boys in the USCCB regularly do, and the Lavender Mafia within Catholicism, and the Lavender Mafia in the liberal Anglican and Anglican parallel Protestant congregations try to do, that the Bible is not absolutely brutal on this worst sin. The Bible and then the early church, it's a worse sin, the sin of the traditional translation of what sod denotes. Man on man. Relations. I don't know what to call it. Is worse than murder. Held by Aquinas, the worst sin of all, according to St. Peter Damian. Let's listen to St. Peter Damian on it. To the patristics, to Ambrose writes on this. You're barking up the wrong tree. Again, Christianity is not the place to go for sodomy tolerance. So yes, we have three words before I go to St. Peter Damian, because he just writes glowingly, as in glowing embers, against the sodomites. There is a shared etymology between the city of Sodom, sodomy, and sodomite. Thank you. The sin of Sodom was, in fact, yes, it's wrong to gay rape people. The disrespect is the second worst thing, though, as the eternal Norm Macdonald says. The worst thing is the act. So don't give me this heil about it didn't mean something sexual. In Genesis, the men of Sodom demanded to know, a euphemism in the carnal Old Testament sense for sexual intercourse, the angels who were visitors to Lot's house. And that's what scriptural scholars down from St. Jerome onward have always held. To know is carnally know, and they're pretending, the act of demanding sexual violence against visitors and the overall moral corruption of the city became associated with a specific type of sin, leading to the development of the word sodomite. But the funny thing is, even AI is a little bit politically correct. What sin was that? Why did Sodom become associated with not gay rape, but gay men? And they're all in all of their crapulence.
I thought you were going to say splendor. Like, I was like, I don't.
No, in all of their.
I was waiting for that sentence to land on a word.
In all of their crapulence.
That's a better word.
What is it? A noble spirit embiggens even the smallest man.
Yeah.
In their cromulence. I mean, it's very, very straightforward. We can before we go to, I'm going to get back to the article, but before we go to St. Peter Damian, let's just look up what did the patristics say about Sodom. There are so many scathing reviews about whether it was really about Sodom and Gomorrah. And patristic thought the story of Sodom is a complex and evolving warning against various sins, including, who is this written by? Oh, this is AI. So AI is so woke. I have to stop doing that. Let's go to a little Catholic Answers article. This is Cy Kellett, so I think it should be fine. Let's see. The Bible has relatively few passages about Homo sapienism, and modern thinkers have found ways to explain some of them away. For example, is Genesis 19 really about Homo sapienism, or is it really about a failure of hospitality? So, like, just to underscore the hilarious Eternal Norm Macdonald joke in Dirty Work, if you have visitors to your house and you fail to lay out a nice dinner, particularly if let's say you have visitors from your house to your house from a long road trip, you don't lay out a nice dinner. I mean, there's one thing if you buy them like a bucket of KFC or something, that's not particularly hospitable, but at least you've planned to feed them. But if you lay out nothing at table, this is inhospitable. This, according to these morons who are transliterating the Bible in an absolutely duplicitous way, is the same level of sinfulness, because there's not an additional element of sin or a primary element of sin. Dr. Mary Healy, a member of the Pontifical Biblical Commission, gives us a bracing Catholic answer. Mary Healy might be funky. Hello and welcome this is Cy Kellett. I guess this is a transcript. One very delicate area. Don't be careful, Cy. You can't say things like we're behind the times or people are getting butthurt over the issue or delicate areas of Christian apologetics in our times as Homo sapienality. There's a great deal of confusion about what the Bible exactly says that there really isn't, Cy. This is in part because the Bible has relatively few passages that deal directly with it, and those that it does have become somewhat controversial. Now, they weren't always. Among them, the Genesis 19 account of Lot's visitors and the people of Sodom and the ultimate destruction of Sodom. What is that all about? You'll see a kind of contestation about what that's about. And we wanted to share one very respectable view from a respectable minister. This is Brandon Robertson telling us what Genesis 9 is really about. That's weird. Why do you have
Sounds like it was written by a woman. She used respectful, 12 times in one sentence?
It's true. He says, so this is wrong. The cities of Sodom and Gomorrah in the Bible were not destroyed. Oh, wow. This is, wow. Okay, so Cy Kellett had, because they were, so this is a lib. Ezekiel 16:49 says, and I quote, now this was the sin of your sister Sodom. They were arrogant, overfed, and unconcerned. They did not help the poor and the needy. Now this is a standard trope for why one of the things that's wrong with Sodom. According to the Bible, Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed not because of homosexuality, but because they were inhospitable. They were selfish. They didn't care for the orphan and the stranger. Okay, this was never denied by the scripture scholars who unpacked it. The question is, was sodomy a sin? And it simply was. So redefining the sin. Sorry, I'm surprised to find that on Cy Kellett's show. When Catholics today hear Sodom and Gomorrah, this is from a Catholic World Report article by John Grundeski. When Catholics today hear Sodom and Gomorrah, what comes to mind? I worry that for many, it's an empty phrase. Its moral and theological significance is lost, like calling every disagreeable politician Hitler. The label Sodom and Gomorrah may carry him. All right, this is horrible. Sodom and Gomorrah were incinerated by fire and brimstone from heaven. That was no minor threat. Historical ignorance allows turning a public figure whose policies range from tough to coercive into Hitler. Don't care, don't care, don't care. Catholics and Sodom and Gomorrah.
It's like on Seinfeld, they're like, we'll be reading on film. We'll be reading on film.
Well, because I didn't expect to find outlets like Catholic Answers going for it. All we really need is divine judgment. Let's go to Aquinas and Sodom. Yeah, there's a lot of reading today.
Do you want me to play? There was a clip on Bannon's War Room. U.S. Catholic bishops approved the first Bible translation deliberately mistranslate homosexual practices. Peter Wolfgang is being interviewed. I think it's a 4-minute clip, but I can play just a little bit of that.
Yeah, start that out. I want to look at this.
Film on the other screen. You can we'll play this for everybody.
Because I know Aquinas deals with this.
First of all, thank you. It's a great honor to be on your show. And you're asking me specifically about an article that I wrote this week for CatholicCulture.org.
Oh, this is him.
You can go to that website and read it.
It's
up right now. The article is titled Bishops Approve Gay Washed Bible. And the word that you're talking about is, I'm probably going to mispronounce it myself, but it is a Greek word. It is found in both 1 Corinthians 6, verse 9, and 1 Timothy 1, verse 10. It's the only 2 times in the New Testament that word appears. St. Paul coined the word himself. And the Greek word is arsenokoite. And what that word has always been understood to mean until the most recent translation of the New Revised Standard Version Bible, the updated edition, is men who have sex with men. It's one of St. Paul's 2 condemnations of homosexual practice that appears in the New Testament. And the reason I use the word gay wash, that phrase, it does not originate with me. I am quoting a Protestant scholar by the name of Robert A.J. Gagnon. He is one of the foremost scholars on the Bible and homosexuality. And he was the one who sounded the alarm 3 years ago when the New Revised Standard Version updated edition,
on Facebook,
I'm going to refer to it as the NRSVUE for short, although that's already 6 letters, it's already a mouthful. But he was the one who first sounded the alarm when the NRSVUE came out 3 years ago, that for the first time ever in a major way, that a major respected Bible translation had essentially taken out St. Paul's condemnation of homosexual activity, at least in these 2 verses. Now, it does still appear in other parts of the Bible, but it's in the NRSVUE, the NRSV updated edition. But it's important to back up and explain why that's still a problem going forward.
Let's just recapitulate that point, okay? This is the first time, or certainly within the authoritative translations, this is the first time this word has been translated out of its traditional context, right? To have a translation rendered into English that is explicitly nothing to do with homosexual practice.
Yes, the NRSVUE, I'm quoting someone else here, is the first major English Bible to suddenly find arsenokoite impossible to translate. And this person argued, as other people did, that that's not an accident. And we need to back up and talk about that. How did we arrive at this place? Why was this word, which has always been understood, it was never, the Greek was never that uncertain. I mean, if you want to, you can say almost every word when you're translating the Bible is uncertain. But for most of the history of the English translation of the Bible, people understood what that word meant until, historically speaking, the day before yesterday, or about 3 years ago, when the NRSV updated edition came out. And I don't think it's an accident that it was the mainline Protestant churches that this is their flagship Bible, the NRSV now updated edition, that ended up doing this. And the reason you and I are having this discussion right now is because 3 years later in 2025, just this week, the Catholic bishops have given their imprimatur to it. And I think we need to back up and discuss that. If I can, I want to start with something that you started with, actually, the Ignatius Study Bible. I cannot recommend it highly enough. That translation is the Revised Standard Version, Second Catholic Edition. It's a great translation. It's something that we owe largely to Ignatius Press in the year 2006. It was Ignatius Press that worked with the Vatican at that time.
All right, I think that's
to
good.
Get approval of that translation.
So, an Ignatius Press, not my favorite Catholic publisher, but definitely faithful transliteration of the Bible, and not trying any funny stuff. Originally run by Father Fessio, SJ, but not that kind of SJ. So what you have is the complete re-envisionment of what our Senecoitai means. It's always meant in the Greek, Homo sapienism. The traditional Christian unpacking, the traditional both patristic, late first millennial interpretation, and then the scholastic interpretation of this story, Genesis 19, has been absolute. The sin of Sodom is sodomy, and that's where we get the term from. It's a very old term. So I went through the etymology. Sodomy does come from Sodom. Sodomite does come from Sodom. They're not false cognates. They're not false etymological kissing cousins or anything like that. And if they were kissing cousins, they would be dudes. Aquinas and traditional commentators, as you can lay your bottom dollar, interpreted the sin of Sodom as an attempt at Homo sapien rape, as detailed in Genesis 19. The key term here from Genesis is that when Lot's visitors were ordered out of the house, it was the male visitors specifically. So all they're doing is, the last 25 years, beginning with liberal Protestant interpretations and transliterations of the Bible, they're just saying, well, there's a couple things wrong here. Like Norm Macdonald says, right? There's a lack of respect, lack of hospitality. There's a lack of consent. This sounds like a Michael Gary Scott Office joke. Well, it was consensual. It wasn't consensual. But the sin of sodomy, and the sinners being denoted by the term sodomite, this derives from Sodom. Thomas Aquinas viewed the sin of Sodom, as described in Genesis 19, primarily as the unnatural vice of sodomy. Like I had to go through any of this anyway. In his theological framework, sodomy was considered one of the gravest sins against chastity because it violated the natural order of human sexuality by failing to conform to its primary purpose of procreation in a graver way than other acts of sexual sin. So there are natural acts of sexual sin. They're still mortal sins, right? Adultery is a natural sin. If it's heterosexual, it's a natural vice. It's a bad one. You'll go to hell for it. It's really bad. Don't do it. Did you go through any of them? I don't want to even list all of the gross terms, but fornication, all the other forms of porneia, if they're heterosexual, are considered not just by Catholic theology, by the natural law. They are natural vices. And they controvert the telos and the ergon, the purpose and the functional order of the act of sexual procreation. And therefore they're sinful. And because they subvert the purpose gravely, they are what we call mortal sins. But they're natural mortal sins. Homosexuality is an unnatural vice because it is even more perverse. It is even a starker contravenience against the natural law. On the order of nature, they are evaluated by not just Aquinas, not just Augustine, but everyone in between, Ambrose, all the fathers, Chrysostom. Do you want me to get you started on Chrysostom, on homos? He's scalding. He treats them almost as badly as he treats women. They scald the sin of sodomy because it is the highest degree of the violation of being against nature. Okay, so that's sodomy violates the order of charity, and yes, the lack of respect, the lack of hospitality is bad, but the main part of the sin is the etymological basis that people associate with that act.
Isn't sodomy a little bit too much hospitality?
Well,
like,
not forcible.
I was gonna say, like, I don't think hospitality is really part of that so much. Like, I think it's a little too much.
Arguably, it's too much. I guess consensual. So it's like Dwight Schrute says when the watermark, the inappropriate watermark goes out on Dunder Mifflin paper. Dwight indicating it was consensual. Yeah, it's still a sin for Christians. You know, this is not the new secular left moral world order where it's just everything's permitted as long as it's mutually consented to. That's not how it works. And that's where they're trying to push this. And the USCCB just, they're doing what they can to change Catholic teaching, Christian teaching into the same thing, to reduce it to the world's teachings on such things. Here, as promised, here is St. Peter Damian. He denounced homosexuality as a sin comparable to blasphemy, meaning it's way worse than murder. Blasphemy is the worst thing you can do. He especially rejects sodomy among the clergy, a practice that was rampant at his time. The issue of homosexuality within the clergy is deeply related to the dignity of the priesthood, of course, and it's the worst thing you can do. It encompassed 4 classes of unnatural vice for Peter Damian. So that's base. Sometime during the year 1049, Peter Damian, prior of the hermitage of Fonte Avellana, in what is now the Italian region of Marche, near the Umbrian border, wrote a lengthy letter to newly installed Pope Leo IX. The letter concerned the befouling cancer of sodomy, which Peter Damian declared was, in fact, spreading so through the clergy, or rather like a savage beast. It's raging with such shameless abandon through the flock of Christ. In his definition, a common one during the Middle Ages, proving that this is old. Remember the goofballs who are attempting this new transliteration were saying that theirs is actually the traditional translation. They always say this was the Vatican II trick. This was the Ronnerite trick at Vatican II. We're actually going back to the ressourcement. We are the ressourcement enthusiasts. No, the traditional Middle Ages and patristic interpretation of sodomy encompasses 4 classes of unnatural vice, each described by Peter Damian with startling explicitness and deemed more serious than the last, starting with, okay, I don't want to go through it, self-abuse, culminating with sodomy, the worst offense of all. All were forms of male homosexual activity. Self-abuse can be conceived that way. It gets really, really, really blue. It gets really specific when you go and Peter Damian on these guys.
Everybody put on a brave face.
Wow, I'm reading things that just are filthy.
You are blushing.
Takes a lot to make me blush, but what a vile deed, deserving a flood of bitter tears. If they who approve of these evildoers deserve to die, what condign punishment can be imagined for those who commit these absolutely damnable acts with their spiritual sons? Okay. So, by the way, it's one of the, 6 sins that cries out to heaven for vengeance. You know, yeah, I can list you a whole bunch of heinous shit that does not make it onto Scripture's list of sins that cry out to heaven. So, but this does. So we heard from the author of this Catholic Culture article directly. And I'm going to read a little bit more from his 2022 Catholic Answers article. He writes, "Fortunately, Catholics have the authority of the magisterium to guide us and guard us. The bishops should use that same authority to prevent the publication of an NRS View Catholic edition until such time as the NRS View's errors are corrected." So they've done the opposite here in the year of our Lord, 2025. They've done the opposite to Catholic bishops. And they're now consigning themselves to the what Peter Damian calls the condign error of sodomy by gay washing it and saying it's no more than just a panoply of relatively ordinary natural sexual vices. According to a comment posted at the Catholic Bible Talk blog today, there will be no changes to the text of the NRS View. Friendship Press responded to my inquiry this morning and confirmed it. There are no differences in the text for the Catholic edition. It is the same as the base text for all books shared by Catholics and Protestants. The NRS View errata is publicly available at blah, blah, blah. The errata lists all corrections to the text that have been made since its initial publication. These apply to the base text of the NRS View as well. The USCCB's website now includes the NRS View as an approved translation of the Bible. That's what he means, this Peter Wolfgang, president of the Family Institute of Connecticut Action. He's a Catholic. This is what he means by gay washed. First major modern English committee translation of the Bible to eliminate any reference to homosexual practice. Robert A.J. Gagnon was the one who first said, they're trying to take this Greek word, arsenokoitai, in the New Testament and make it into just some banal sexual sin. Other parts of the NRS View did not eliminate the references to Homo sapien practice, as Gagnon's 2022 post acknowledged. But the main one, traditionally, what they've always argued about the last 2 decades with the lab mafia types, has been the Genesis 18:19 stuff. And it is simply not arguable. So it's really gross. What's grosser is that, whereas we used to brag like, hey, we have this magisterial starch block against the kind of funny business that left prots have to, just consider themselves susceptible to at all times. Well, remember, USCCB is not a magisterial authority. National bishops' conferences have no magisterial authority, but each individual bishop has a limited magisterial authority. So there's not a heightened degree of magisterial authority to the national bishops' conferences, but each bishop is part of the magisterium. He's a prelate. So there is a suggested value of a bunch of bishops getting together, and there is de facto value to any bishop saying, we're down. I Bishop such and thus is down with this gay washed version of the Bible. It's really, really bad. It's really, really gross. And I'm glad to see that, War Room covered it. Did we have naysayers in the super chats?
I had to block the one because they got pervy and weird. So they're out of here. And then, which always happens, like the person who in chat who's always like, you're being mean to the gays, is the one that starts like freaking out, derails and destroys an entire town with like gross sexual imagery.
Destroys an entire town like Sodom or Gomorrah with sexual assault on our ears.
But we do have some super chats. And are you doing a locals only live stream after this?
We'll do a locals only. We'll just talk some trash on the Homo sapiens.
Okay, locals and monthly supporters, look for that link right after the show ends. So first super chat is JR. Says, Timothy, you're helping me and many other men become a suitable Catholic spouse. Thank you and Steph for your lectures.
Thanks. We do our best. And we do our best to talk the talk and to walk the talk or whatever. It's a tough thing. Being a real vital model of Catholic manhood to your kids is one of the hardest things, because sometimes life is scary or things make us impatient, and we're called to lead into love and all that. And sometimes it's hard. So I do my best. Thanks for the acknowledgement. God bless.
I know Father James Martin, SJ, is super happy right now.
So happy. He's celebrating somewhere, and I don't want any footage of the celebration. I don't want it.
Oh boy.
I don't want to see it.
Matthew Ruby says, what version of the Bible do you and your family read or study?
I like the Knox. I like the Knox interpretation of the Bible. Father Ronald Knox, Monsignor Knox. That one's super, super based. I mean, look, I've gotten more and more and more through the years into Latin. I don't just mean the Latin Mass. I actually don't study Latin associated with the Latin Mass, but I've gotten more and more into ecclesiastical Latin, teaching it to my kids, teaching it to some of your kids. I really do enjoy, if I have to get the Bible out, getting out the Clementine or the Vulgate.
Mm-hmm.
And so I enjoy that, because I've gotten to the point where I actually enjoy Latin Bible translations, doing them myself. So I like that. I like the Vulgate / Clementine, but I like the Knox Bible a lot. That Ignatius Study Bible is quite good. Did you have one you like? What did you go through?
That's what I was about to ask you. So I went through the entirety of it, and I made notes like on everything throughout the entirety of Scripture. But I forget what translation it was. I wasn't overly impressed with it, to be quite honest. I got it because it was traditional in a sense. It's a Catholic Bible. I'll have to look exactly what translation it was, but it's like everything got like kind of watered down, and then the footnotes would say more specific things. But yeah, the Knox I started reading was very good. So, but Ignatius Study Bible, everybody says, is amazing. So
in honor of my Norm Macdonald reference on Dirty Work, a hilarious movie, I want to go back to Norm Macdonald's coming out on Larry King. This is classic. Okay.
I'm a deeply closeted gay guy.
No kidding.
Well, I'm not coming out, though.
Wait a minute. What are you revealing here today?
I'm not revealing anything. I'm saying I'm deeply closeted.
Well, that means you're gay.
Well, I wouldn't say that. Why would I say that? I'm deeply closeted.
No, but that means you're very, very gay, but you don't want to come out. You're so closeted
that I refuse to say I'm gay.
Right.
Exactly.
But that
man, I miss
doesn't
that guy.
Mean you're gay.
Hey, easy, buddy.
Makes me laugh.
Oh, this book will reveal much.
Larry King had no idea what was going on there.
That old Jew.
Absolutely no.
Yeah, that old Jew didn't know.
He had no idea.
Because Norm was so cutting edge. He was, I mean, he loved, Michael Knowles had this, started out DM correspondence with Norm in the last year of his life, and he's talked about it. It's really, he's a lucky duck, Knowles, my friend Knowles. Norm loved what was happening on the internet. I mean, the internet's so good because it's the Jews like Larry King who run everything, but run hearts and minds through media. They simply can't control the internet. And that's why so much truth has come out on the internet. So much red pilling and truth bombs have erupted onto the scene with the internet, and why the left initially was trying to control it. And now they just realize they can't. And now they just say, oh, you're very online. You're terminally online, for somebody that doesn't buy what the 4 news networks, which are really one news network, are saying about translations of Arsena Koitai or about Israel or whatever other flavor of the day lie there is. But Norm was really ahead of his time, because whenever he gave this interview, which I think was 2007 or 08, there was no calling into question this stuff, and Norm's just messing with it. And he told Michael Knowles, I was always a Christian, man. I never questioned it. I always just knew the Bible was true. That's I don't want to say it's infused knowledge, but it's infused knowledge adjacent. And he's like, I'm not an educated guy. Michael, my friend, you went to Yale, but then he would always use 3 words Michael says that Michael didn't know. And he had this kind of infused knowledge. Now, Norm was probably not Catholic. He never really specified, but he was probably not Catholic, but he had this infused-esque knowledge of the fundamental truth of the Bible. It's so clearly not just a religion like all these other fake religions. So it's just great that he had the pluck and the presence of mind and just the vision to see, look, we have to mock this stuff. We have to mock this evil stuff in the way of Jeremiah. Remember, Jeremiah mocks, it's 2,000, is it 4,000 or 2,000 idolaters, and just mocks their God, just talks shit on all the false gods. And then he kills them. It's based. That's where we get the term Jeremiah from, or a Peter Damian, or St. John Chrysostom. The spirit of Christian mockery is back. It's alive and well on the internet. It's hot. It's spicy. And this is what I like about the Christian nationalism movement. Of course, I have a very, very particular niche of kind of states' rights Christian nationalism. But I like the robustness and the manliness of mocking our enemies. There's one truth, it's Christianity. All the other religions just shit can them. They're all self-evidently false. And we have an enemy. It's not just the fake religions. It's not just the one sort of secular religion of Judaism, which really is the unused name for what we call secular liberalism. It's just what's called Judaism, which runs the world. Guys like Larry King, that seep at our borders into the thought like some sort of neurovirus, and make our liberal scholars accept, the false teachings of the world on things like this. And the USCCB is particularly susceptible of it because, as I said the other day, while I think I was pounding my fist, personnel is policy. It's more policy in the church than even in politics. So it's idiotic and quixotic when folks object, well, that's only true in politics. That's not true in the church. It's more true in the church. And it even was in better, healthier, hale days of Roman Catholicism. The 11th century, the 14th century. Always true. Always, always, always true. Personnel is policy. And when you get a bunch of gay lords into office, they're going to start doing gay stuff. It's that simple. So people don't need to scratch their heads and tear their garments at the mystery of iniquity. Yes, iniquity is mysterious in ontological regards. It's not mysterious. It's like, well, why do we have all these gay dudes doing gay things and signing on to gay Bibles? Well, because they're gay dudes. This is what they do. They're deeply closeted. They're not going to admit it. Oh, Norm, where are you now? Another show I think I'm going to do soon is this. Since we're already talking about gross stuff, I don't like talking about gross stuff. I don't like talking about the sex stuff. I like talking shit. I don't like talking about the sex stuff. But this concept that Augustine and Aquinas, the two leading doctors of the church, not in that order, both acknowledged that prostitution in most societies makes more sense to be legal than illegal. My friend Jay Dyer was taking after this and calling it consequentialist reasoning online. Jay and I have been texting about it all morning. We were partly on Twitter about it. This is an important topic for a show. This is not consequentialism. Consequentialism is, again, since we're already doing gross topics today, a significantly less gross topic than homosexuality is prostitution, but still gross all the same. Consequentialism is when one says that a moral evil can be tolerated because it might help practically, logistically, to avoid a different moral evil. That's consequentialism. It's not consequentialism to say that legal vices can be tolerated. That has never been it. I don't care whether you're Ronald Dworkin or Thomas Aquinas or John Finnis, any of the philosophy of law legal scholars down through the ages who oppose legal positivism. All of them together, all of us, Jay Dyer, myself, all of these guys I'm mentioning, opposed legal positivism, but from different traditions. Thomas Aquinas from the natural law position. John Finnis from the new natural law position. Ronald Dworkin from a kind of secular left approach to legal positivism. Jay Dyer opposes legal positivism from an Orthodox perspective. I do from a basically Thomistic perspective, a Catholic perspective. Legal positivism is just the idea that law and morality should be completely distinct. We're none of us legal positivists, but all of us acknowledge that not, as Thomas Aquinas writes in the Summa, not every vice should be proscribed, nor every virtue required at law. There is not a single anti-positivist thinker in the history of the philosophy of law who thought that every vice should be illegalized. So missing mass, a mortal sin, you can go to hell for it if it's intentional. Should people be thrown into the slammer for missing mass? Private, I'm not talking about perjury or yelling fire in a crowded building, but private fibs, a fib between, sisters. We're just making our way through Downton Abbey. A private fib between two sisters. Should that be punishable by law? That's a mortal sin. Often. Not all fibs are mortal, but the kinds I'm talking about in Downton Abbey, very mortal. But it's not punishable by law. So we all of us acknowledge as anti-positivists, whether you're Dworkinian or Thomistic or Finicite or some brand of, Dr. Bradshaw, Eastern Orthodox, opponent of legal positivism, none of us are consequentialists just for saying not every sin, not even every mortal sin should be punishable at law. I mean, that might require a show because Aquinas is a kind of reasonable legal minimalist. And, I might do a whole separate thing on that. Anyway, variety show today. But it's important we remember the USCCB has no extra magisterial authority that is not in place vested within each of the individual bishops. So they are no more powerful or potent jointly than they are severally. But they suggest more power when they get together, and it's dangerous. And people do listen to the USCCB as if they have heightened magisterial power contra qua individual bishops, which constitute them.
One last super chat before we go. Let's see. Hey, Tim, this is Julian from Austin. Would you be open to having a discussion on the proper Catholic posture regarding the J's with Michael Knowles? That would be huge.
Yeah, I would. I mean, I would love it, but I wonder if I could arrange it. I'll try to arrange it. Are you back in Austin, Julian, or are you still in Europe? Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I don't know how plausible it is, but we'll see. I was texting with Michael the other day about his excellent speech, the first speech in the kind of Charlie Kirk replacement talks on the TPUSA thing.
He did a great job.
All right, we'll switch over to locals only now. God bless all of you. Don't read the NRSV version of the Bible because it gay washes it. And as always, you just can't trust National Bishops' Conferences. They're too fruity. God bless you all. Des Vol.